Hi, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to the art of silence. The art of is a strand that I've been execing now for a few years. We like to call them mini masterclasses. They're usually production-based in terms of what we're dealing with, which is really nice. And we have experts in various fields coming along to tell you how they do the job they do. So today we are doing the art of silence. And I'd like to introduce you to the panel today. We have Jeff Coward here from Player Digital. Yay. We have, on your left, we have Simone Giampolo from Tiger Aspect. And in the middle, please welcome Nat Tapley from Sparkle Goose Limited. And they will talk to you about the art of silence. So I'm not going to go on anymore. I'm going to hand over to somebody who knows all about performing non-verbal comedy.
Hello and welcome to The Art of Silence. It's an hour in which we'll expound on the power of comedy that's done without words by talking to you using words. I'm Nat Tapley. I have been a comedy writer for far too long to talk about, really. I've done lots of shows like The Now Show, The News Quiz, the first season of Giggle Beers, Dick and Don. And then I spent a long time on a show called Have I Got News For You, which is all comedy done with words. Lots of words. It's all words that have to be strong and so robust they can't even be ruined by Damian Lewis improving the jokes as he reads them from the auto cue. He's a terrible man. And then a few years ago, I got asked to be head writer on a show called Bad Dinosaurs, created by Joel Veitch, who's over there. And Bad Dinosaurs is a preschool show that was dialogue-free, and we had to work out how to tell stories and tell jokes without using any dialogue at all. And so I'm hoping to share some of the things we learned with you today. So when you don't have dialogue, what do you have? You've got character, you've got emotion, and you've got situation. And fart jokes. Never underestimate the power of toilet humour. From the smallest toddler to the wrinkliest centenarian, everyone has a bum and everyone knows that their bum is funny. It is the most universal, unique kind of humour there is. Toilet humour unites us all and underlines the humanity of all of us and our stinky, stupid bums. To begin with, we watched a lot of silent comedies. We watched a lot of Chaplin, a lot of Buster Keaton, we watched a lot of Harold Lloyd, but we also watched a lot of the newer silent comedies, Pixar shorts, Flow. You can find as much from Tweedy and Fluff as you can in Jack Tati. And one of the first principles we came to was that it was important to know who the joke was about, what they wanted, and why they couldn't have it. And to be clear about that, that will help you power through your stories. If we can identify who it's about, what they want, why they can't have it, and why we should care. That will power you through writing jokes and stories without dialogue. So I thought we'd do what we did in the room for Bad Dinosaurs, and we'll run sort of a little workshop, and we'll see if we can do it together in the room now. And you've got to shout out things, or you're not, and I'm going to stand here looking like an idiot, and we will see if we can put together a little sequence which we'll then hand to Simone to direct, and we'll leave the difficult part to him, because that's what writing is. You write things that can't be filmed, and then you give them to Simone. So the first thing we need is a character. Now, a character can be anything. A character is a thing that does things. That's all it needs to be. Joel and I reviewed a short recently, which was by Michel Dudok-de-Witt, in which the lead character was a drop of tea. So it can be anything. So we need a thing that can be a character. Who's got an idea for a thing that could be a character? A dog lead. Okay, dog lead. I said anything. Dog lead, any others? Huh?
Sandwich.
A dog lead or a sandwich. Okay. Dog lead. Now, anyone who's lived through my writers' rooms knows that's as good as the handwriting gets all the way through them. Right, dog lead or sandwich? Which we think, give me a yay if you like dog lead. Give me a yay if you like sandwich. I'm afraid we're doing a thing about a sandwich. The sandwich needs a name. What could a name for a sandwich be? Anyone? Greg, Sam, and what? Money. Lenny. Greg, Sam, and Lenny. Wow, we've gone really Sam and Lenny. Ethel.
Greg, but she's a woman.
Greg, but she's a woman, which is, in terms of current events, really quite topical. Greg, but she's a woman. Ethel, Sam, or Lenny. Let's hear a cheer for Greg. Greg, but she's a woman. Ethel. Lenny. And Sam. Okay, if you shouted out Sam, don't feel sad about that. This is a safe space. It's like a writer's room. You can say anything, no matter how stupid or unloved by the room. So let's go with Ethel the Sandwich. Ethel the Sandwich. There we go. Now, unfortunately, because we're not using dialogue, she can't come on and say, hello, I'm Ethel the Sandwich. So the sandwich bit, I'm hoping will be obvious by the fact that she will look like a sandwich. But let's move on to what a sandwich might want. What might a sandwich want? Filling. The sandwich might want filling. Condiments for the filling, yes, okay. Condiments. Mayonnaise, that's very specific. Crisps. Being eaten. Okay, so there are two kinds of things. Being eaten and fillings. There are two kinds of things that you can want without dialogue. You can want something that's an actual object that you can see, and that's shown with the international language of wanting things, which is by putting it on a pedestal and having a glow around it while a choir goes, ah, and that's, you all know without dialogue that the character wants that. Or you can have something that's not so visible and important to them. Simone, I think we used the glow and the ah quite a lot for showing what characters want. So Ethel the Sandwich, does she want filling? Or condiments? No. Mayonnaise? So mayonnaise as a specific condiment gets more than condiments, the concept of condiments. Good, we like to be specific. We want something actual that we can use. Good. And crisps. Yay! It's crisps. Now, Ethel the Sandwich, who wants crisps, needs something that's going to drive her through this story and through all of her stories, what we called in Bad Dinosaurs her story engine, which is the flaw, the thing that she does wrong. We had characters who were greedy or vain or self-serving or were impetuous. You want something that's going to stop your character trying to get to where they want to go, apart from outside obstacles. What is Ethel the Sandwich's flaw? What's she?
Too crusty.
Too crusty.
She lets tomatoes in.
She's crusty, lets tomatoes in, and allergic to it. This has gone really conceptual really quickly.
She's sentient.
Crumbling. She's mouldy.
Sentient.
She's a sandwich.
I'm going to say that was Alex without turning round. Okay, so she's too crusty, she lets tomatoes in, she's sentient, she's crumbly, she's mouldy, and she hasn't been cut in half yet, because even I can't read what I wrote there, and it was literally 4 seconds ago. I think we should get... So, I'm going to use my head writer's privilege here and say, I think some of these could be really... Too crumbly is quite good, because too crumbly, we can put her in situations where crumbling happens. Let's tomatoes in, I don't know how that would impede her getting her crisps. So I'm going to overrule letting tomatoes in. Mouldy, does anyone have any idea about how we could use her mould to set her back? No, so let's cross off mouldy. Too crusty. What does too crusty mean? Who said too crusty?
Like a hard shell, you can't bite into her.
Oh, you can't bite into her. So she's looking for crisps to be bitten into, but she can't. She's developed a hard shell around. Okay. It's quite a sad story now, but we can work with it. And sentient. How would being... Who said sent... Okay.
She's not supposed to be alive, so if someone saw that she was alive, she'd probably get killed.
She'd be eaten. And we'd see her tiny sandwich eyes disappear into someone's mouth and be horrified. Good. Okay, so Ethel the sandwich, who wants crisps. Let's go through. So who would like to see her be too crusty? Oh, shout out for crusty. Okay. Let's tomatoes in. I don't know what that means. The crisps will get soggy. Okay, so... Okay. Where have the tomatoes come from? Where do the tomatoes live in relation to the sandwich? Are they pre-cut? Who's letting... Why would the tomatoes let someone cut them? Can't protest. Okay. Let tomatoes in, possibly. Sentient. Yay? Or crumbly?
Yeah.
Yes! There we go. I told you what to do and you didn't. So now we've established Ethel the sandwich, who wants some crisps but is just too crumbly. Let's have a look at a clip of someone who can do this better than I can. And that is one of the most perfectly written jokes in all of cartoon history. We know what Wile E. Coyote wants because we know him, we know what he wants, and we watch it happening. And the moment we see that long ramp, we start to, as in the opening one where we saw Charlie Chaplin walk towards the hole, we begin to construct in our minds what is going to happen to this character that's going to be funny before the end. And Chuck Jones does something completely different, and it's brilliant. And yes, that's a principle we should use. Like, confound the audience's expectations. As soon as we see something visual, if those are all the clues we have to go on, we start constructing a narrative in our head about what's going to go on, which is why you can make anything into a character. Because as soon as something moves and is taking action, we as an audience want to impart intent to it. We want it to be doing something for a reason that we can understand. So, why can't Ethel the sandwich, who loves crisps and is too crumbly, have them? Now, there are two sorts of things we can set up as obstacles. There are physical things, which should be distance, time, space, trying to get to places out of places, having built an enormous ramp. There are lots of things that are physical, but there are also the things which are contained in being too crumbly, which is we can either have some sort of antagonist who's going to oppose them, or we can be our own worst enemies and be the obstacle to ourselves. It's what Chuck Jones always said about Wile E. Coyote. His enemy isn't the Roadrunner. The Roadrunner never does anything to him. He just runs up behind him and goes, boom, boom. His own worst enemy, the thing that's opposing Wile E. Coyote in all of those scenes, is himself, is the fact that he wants to be clever. He could always, with the time he's had to build that ramp, he could have got an order to take away. He could have got food from anywhere, but he hasn't. He really wants to prove to himself that he can get that specific Roadrunner. He is his own worst enemy. He is the obstacle for himself. So, if Ethel the sandwich is incredibly crumbly, now that's a very physical obstacle, very physical flaw. So what are the physical obstacles? How long was that? 2 minutes, oh shit. I mean, right.
Crisps is too far away on the kitchen counter.
Yes.
And it's sealed.
It's sealed.
You have to open it, which would make her crumble more.
Which will make
and
her
you
crumble.
Have to get off the plate and over to it as well, which would
Yes.
lots of crumble problems.
That sounds excellent. So we've got a distance problem. She's over here on a plate. The crisps are over here. Those are crisps. She has to get from here to here. What are things that could stand in the way and make her that could induce crumbliness between two places? She's what? Cheese grater. Yeah, excellent. There's a cheese grater here. Any others? Water, yeah. It's going to be very soggy. And there's a crocodile in the water. I don't know why. I'm just putting a crocodile in. Okay. Anyone else? Anything else? Any other obstacle?
Block.
A knife block, which she has to... Are the knives exposed?
Oh, yeah, that's not how knife blocks work. Never mind.
Any other obstacles we can give her?
Hungry pigeons.
Hungry pigeons. Amazing. Has to have a beak. Just... So, we now have Ethel, the sandwich. She is trying to get crisps. She's too crumbly, but she has to escape ravenous pigeons, a cheese grater, and some water. I think we probably should reorder them. Let's finish with the pigeons. Let's have the pigeons over here. The pigeons will be our climax, having done the grater and the water. Okay, and the final thing is, in our last minute and a half, to establish what are the stakes? Why do we care if she gets across here? What happens to Ethel if she doesn't get these crisps? She dies. Okay. What does she die of, Howard? She's a sandwich. I mean, yeah, but if she gets the crisps, she's just going to get eaten. I mean, if she gets to the crisps, someone's going to eat her. She'll be more delicious. Sorry, that's not. This is not the safe space. You have spilled a non-hostile space in which to do these things. All suggestions are good suggestions, except Howard's.
Could you use the crisp to distract a hungry person who would otherwise eat her?
Yes, she could use the crisps to distract a hungry person who would otherwise eat her. So she's being chased across here to get the crisps, not because she wants to put the crisps in herself as a sandwich, but because she wants to offer the crisps to the person, or maybe to the pigeons, to the person or pigeons who are ravenously chasing her. Okay. We have almost a funny story happening here, which you have all created, apart from Howard. And Ethel the sandwich is going to get crisps in order to avoid being eaten. And to do that, she must overcome a grater, some water, and some ravenous pigeons. Okay, let's do the last clip. Oh no, I forgot there was another clip. I don't have time to talk about why we showed that clip, but I hope you enjoyed it. So my top tips before writing silent comedy, and Simone can tell us how he would direct Ethel the sandwich getting the crisps to avoid being eaten. My top tips are to be clear in what you're doing and give visual clues as to what it is. Who's the joke about? What do they want? And yes, use the audience's anticipation and their instincts against them. Take where you think it wants to go and go somewhere else. And make sure the stakes are clear as well. Why do we care? How badly wrong can it go? And feel free to push it as extremely as you want. I mean, one of the things I was going to say about that clip is that episode originally had that tiny dinosaur filling a pterodactyl with fart gas so much that they went into space. Netflix said no to that. But you can go as extreme as you want with obstacles. Have fun with it. That's about all I can tell you about writing comedy with no words. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you, Nat. Wow. Okay. Right. Hello, everyone. My name is Simone Giampaolo, and I'm a director of animated films, currently directing the show Stan and Gran for Milkshake. Thank you, Nat, for... since Nat and I have been working on Bad Dinosaur together, and I was the series director on that, I thought I would just give a little intro talking about the dysfunctional relationship between writers and directors. You know, we get tossed a lot of healthy sandwiches over the over the months, and then we have to juggle them and make them work according to the budget. So I just wanted to say that, you know, it's very important for writing and for directing as well to know what's costly before approaching animation. know what's expensive. In animated filmmaking, elements such as number of characters on screen, a number of seagulls on screen, and I'm looking at you, or at you, and props, unique situation, unique lighting, that can really inflate the budget. And writers should be aware of that. And I think a healthy conversation and a healthy communication between director or animation director and writers can really help the ideas flow and the show shine throughout the months. But there are always exceptions to be considered, and a self-policing too much, in my opinion, could become counterproductive, and you could miss some very cool opportunities for humor. So when approaching comedy, especially non-verbal comedy, I always try to remind myself this: never let the budget get in the way of a brilliant gag. Try always to, in my opinion, it's better to write an expensive gag into the script and then negotiate it with production, with the director, how to realize it, how to put it on screen without blowing the budget. There is always a way to sort of strategize in order to achieve something unique on a budget, and rather than omitting it entirely. And embracing this challenge is particularly interesting, I think, from at least for myself as a director. I find it very interesting to put on screen stuff which sounds expensive on paper, but you manage to pull it off and show it on TV and get some laughter out of it. Always remember, from a directorial point of view, the frame is your friend. And anything which is outside of the frame comes for free. And sometimes the stuff which is outside the frame is as funny as the stuff on screen. So always be smart about cinematography, staging, and you can pull off some very complicated, very elaborated kind of gags, like the one I'm gonna show you now. So this is an example of quite a costly sequence. It was one of the first, I think, sequences we boarded. And it's expensive because there are several characters interacting with one another. There are lots of shots, there is lots of action. And I think this sequence only had a few bullet points. Only had maybe a sketch of that creature as a chimera. So there was this idea of this snake being attached to the bottom of the Triceratops, and that's it. We had to come up with all the rest. And so that introduces my next point that I wanted to make: script-driven gags versus board-driven gags. Comedy, of course, most comedy requires a script. That's obvious, but certain moments are quite difficult to capture in words, especially when this moment involve characters of different shapes and nature and sizes interacting with one another physically, like the clip I've just shown. In these cases, the script could be nothing more than a series of bullet points which functions as a springboard. Like, we had, I think, some bullet points for this sequence and this little sketch of this creature, like the two characters attached, and that's all. We had to come up with all the rest during storyboard stage, and I really like that. I love receiving great scripts and putting them, into adapt them for screen, but I also love that process of coming up with ideas throughout the storyboard process. And this idea, how do these ideas during storyboard are born and spring? These ideas spark, in my opinion, during the storyboard from a primal desire to play with puppets. So tapping into your inner child while coming up with boards. What does it mean? It means I ask myself, what would 5-year-old Simone do if he was playing with dinosaurs in his sandbox, many years ago? What would he do with these two characters? How would he make these interact? And I still, up to these days, when I have to approach silent or non-verbal comedy, I open my 3D scene and I have all the characters there as digital puppets, and I try to play with them and try to see how they could interact in order to achieve the most unusual or the most unique kind of comedy using their traits, their physical traits. So, in other words, this kind of humor evolves from observing the character, really observing the character like children would do. Children are great at observing, oh, it's got like long horns, or there is a small tail, there is a big mouth, like observing these physical traits and shapes and crafting situation tailored to those. Like really unique kind of humor that we've done, for example, for Bad Dinosaur. Last thing I wanted to just touch upon is the most important thing in silent comedy. It's surprise. Especially in silent animation, 99% of the humor springs from surprise. This can be, some people give it for granted, but we also tend to forget it. It's surprise which brings the giggle, which brings the laughter to the audience. It can be subtle surprise, or can be, quite flamboyant and over-the-top surprise. It could be, the good old slipping onto a banana peel, or it could be slipping into the banana peel, doing a somersault, and then landing safely wearing the banana as a suit. Yeah, you can go as big as you want in animation, and that's something I really like about it. This comedic surprise, it's a very broad subject, but I think it can be divided in two main branches, this surprise. It can be physical slapstick and reversal of expectations that you talked a bit about earlier. So just playing with the audience expectations. Physical slapstick, the name says it all. Slapstick is, or used to be, that device, that wooden device to create a very loud, funny noise used by clowns. And they still use it up to these days, but it was quite popular back in the days. And physical slapstick it's one of my favorite, and we did a lot of that in Bad Dinosaur because it taps into, it transcends really language barrier, and it taps into our inner giggle response. That's my son, my 2-year-old son, laughing like crazy because I bump my head into the window or I stomp onto a Lego brick. It's that innate giggle response that everyone is subject to. It's the good potty humor, like laughing about a fart joke, laughing about our, bottom jokes and gags. It's something that we are born with, and it transcends geographical borders. Like kids all over the world would find that funny. And it's usually generated by abrupt and quite physical violent action. It needs a shock that the viewer isn't expecting. It's needless to say that this kind of humor, this kind of comedic surprise goes very well hand in hand with characters which keep failing, like we've seen Wile E. Coyote. Characters which keep failing but remain resilient throughout the TV show. Like they never give up. They always try once more, and that's what makes it even funnier. But that taps into another kind of subject, which is very fascinating to me, is how humor brings us to empathy. Like the more Wile E. Coyote fails, the more Tom from Tom and Jerry fails, the more we feel for them. And that means that we can tap into empathy through humor. So that's why I think the world would be a better place if some people watched more Willy Coyote and Tom and Jerry, especially these days. And that's nothing new, really. I'm not talking about Charlie Chaplin. We haven't discovered anything. This kind of slapstick surprise, comedic surprise, is reminiscent of clownery. So clowns from centuries ago, or commedia dell'arte. It's like these things have been around for quite some time and are still working very well. I'll show you just a little clip about physical, shocking humor. Right. The other very big branch of comedic surprise is reversal of expectations. So subverting the expectations of the audience. It's a bit less shocking than this kind of humor you've just seen, but it can generate lots of giggles too. This plays with audience expectations and often uses cliché and repetition in order to establish a routine. So it's the good old rule of 3. Same, different. And it's that difference, that new element that you introduce into the routine that makes you laugh and that surprises you. I guess it's kind of easier. Jeff might not agree with this, but I guess it's kind of easier in animation to create this kind of surprise, because in animation you can make anything act. You can make a sandwich act. You can make an animal act, and therefore the audience is surprised because it's not expecting that. You can make a hippo ice skating. You can make a dragon getting afraid of fire suddenly. Or you can make a big cat, such as a lynx, start knitting using its own fur ball as yarn. Just realized I spoiled the surprise for everyone. Sorry. This is a clip from a Blue Zoo short film that I co-directed in 2018 called Lynx and Birds. You can watch the full short online. I guess that's all from me. I can't wait to grab these bullet points and then go home and do an animatic and directing. And oh yeah, a few top tips from me, things I've been talking about. First of all, know what's costly. And remember, the frame is your friend. Play with characters with unique traits and shapes, like you are a 5-year-old tapping into your inner child. Make your character fail, but keep them resilient in order to create empathy. And create a routine in order to subvert expectation and create big surprises in the audience. Thank you very much. And I pass it to Jeff.
Thanks, Simone. Hi, everyone. I'm Jeff Coward. I'm the live action director. And live action silent comedy shares a lot of elements with animation, but with its own unique strengths and limitations. So I'm going to take a look at what makes live action silent comedy work well for a young audience, from facial expressions to custard pies, and how it mirrors and diverges from animated comedy. If there's one name that most of us would think of with children's live-action silent comedy, in the UK, it would be Justin Fletcher. He studied and was inspired by the greats, Laurel and Hardy, Chaplin, and I've been lucky enough to direct him on many of his shows over the last 15 years or so. And a lot of what I'll talk about will relate to my experience working with him. So key elements of live action silent comedy. Facial expressions. Live actors can bring nuance to facial expressions, subtle, exaggerated, and they're enhanced in a silent medium. So much can be said with a puzzled expression or a raised eyebrow. Timing. Comedy lives and dies on timing, and especially in the silent format. In a fast-cut world like YouTube, silent comedy still needs time to breathe. The pause, the slow blink, the eye roll, it's a conscious comic choice. So these moments button the gag, and that's the beat that tells you this is the joke. So I'm going to run a clip. This is part of a Gigglebiz sketch with a character called Humphrey. Justin's brilliant foil in these sketches is played by Michael Webber, and they work brilliantly and generously with each other, and they found the funny even in the mundane moments. I remember thinking it was going to take hundreds of takes to get the tracking shot where the bowling balls almost hit each other. But turns out Justin's very good at bowls as well. So you might normally get somebody else to stand in for that sort of thing, but he's always the first one in line to give it a go. So staging, where characters are placed, affects the rhythm, the tension, and the payoff. And efficient, careful staging makes the action flow and the comedy more believable. Framing. The mid-shot is where much of the magic happens. It frames the action and the facial comedy at the same time. It gives space for the performance, but it still reads expressions clearly. Relatable situations. Everyday situations can make gags instantly understandable. Familiar scenarios help the audience anticipate the setup and enjoy the twist. With simple, mundane tasks can become comedy gold when they're exaggerated. Going to run another clip. This is Gigglebiz again. Character called DIY Dan, a hapless DIY enthusiast. Keep an eye out for Justin's facial expressions on this, conveying everything from optimism to confusion.
Make sure the walls are hammered in nice and securely. Now the walls are secure, carefully attach the roof.
So there was, of course, a voiceover setting up all of the moments there, but they were styled as how-to videos. But I think these sketches could easily work without them. Music and sound effects. Music sets the mood, builds the energy, and emphasises emotional beats. I think that's right, isn't it, Chris? Sound effects punctuate the visual gags, adding impact without words. Think of it as a silent comedy heartbeat, always working under the surface. Physicality, very important. Exaggerated, cartoon-like movement, it really works with a young audience. But unlike animation, live actors have to work with real-world physics. And sometimes that can make action unpredictable, and actors need to think on their feet, particularly if a performance is recorded as live. So I'm going to run another clip. This is from Justin's house when we used to record it in front of a live audience. It's an homage to the famous Morecambe and Wise breakfast sketch, including with the music we had composed for it. A classic silent comedy with a modern, slightly younger twist. So even though it wasn't as polished as we'd rehearsed it, the as live element, it's not switching on now, is it? The as live element gave the performance a real energy, and the kids were absolutely loving it, and that fed back into the performance. This was an example where the music kept the performers sort of on track, rather than music reacting to the performance. This is moving. So anyway, moving on, visual gags. Animation can create impossible gags that in live action would be too costly, time-consuming, or even dangerous. That being said, often what's unseen, as Simone was saying earlier, can actually be funnier than showing it. So if the performer takes a fall, showing them being careful as they take to the ground isn't going to be that funny. But if you shoot them in a mid-shot, put a crash mat out of vision, add a thud, that'll get a laugh, particularly if you cover their face in custard or put some twigs in their hair as they climb back in. And that paints more of a picture as to what happened without actually seeing it. So that's a real simple example of how clever framing and suggestion can let audiences imagine what's off screen. I've got another clip, hopefully. Yeah, this is a character called Wild Wes, rather fittingly a crossover between live action and animation. Very simple fun for a very young audience, but it has a couple of examples where animation can show the action that live action can't, along with a bit of implication.
Yee-haw! Whoop, 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 whoop. Woo-hoo! Oh, up. Oh, oh. Ha-ha. Oh, up. Woo! Yeehaw!
So my process when I receive a script, first it needs to be achievable. Budget and time constraints can't be ignored. If a scene's too complex, for time and budget, it won't get shot. So I think, is there another way that it can be manageable? Implication can be your friend here. You know, how can you suggest something's happened without showing it, and might that be funnier? Then with staging, where all the props and people go to make the action flow. Then coverage, where will we place the camera? Will we need special cameras or lenses? What shots will we need to tell the story? And could they even add to or build the comedy? How long will the coverage take to acquire? Once I've meticulously prepped every moment, And you need to be prepared for last-minute changes. Be adaptable. Let your performers perform, bring their skills and their humour. If you have to rework your plans to make it funnier, do it, as long as you can get it shot in time. Same goes for if a scene isn't working. Many times I've gone through a sketch in rehearsals and we've sat down and said, is it funny enough? And if the answer's no, that is the time to rework it. And finally, slosh scenes. Iconic moments when characters are covered in custard, slime or cake, they are notoriously difficult to get right. On paper it sounds easy, you throw a pie and they're comedically covered in custard, but the fact is, chances of hitting them perfectly is slim. What's even harder is when you make the slosh look accidental. Harder still, when the same actor is the person throwing the slosh and the person getting sloshed. So, another clip here, very short. This is in Something Special where Chef Tumble is making pancakes, assisted by Mr. Tumble. One of those tricky slosh-throwing scenes where timing and accuracy are key. You only get one go at this because the reset and clean-up takes so long once the first slosh is hit. So it makes everyone nervous, and sometimes you don't get any volunteers. So on this one, I had a go.
Mr. Tumble, your pancake mixture went everywhere.
So a couple of near misses, but not bad. My top tips. Start with staging. Good staging directs the audience's focus and keeps the action clear. Every moment in comedy is about the visual. So where you place characters and props is crucial. It needs a natural flow. Use the space wisely. Focus on the face. Subtle or exaggerated facial expressions can communicate entire emotions without words. They make the scene relatable and readable. And remember, one raised eyebrow can say a lot. Timing. Timing is everything, especially silent comedy. A well-placed pause or blink can transform a moment into a laugh-out-loud gag. Don't rush your reactions. Hold that awkward pause. Make room for music. Music and sound effects set the tone, build the energy, and enhance the physical comedy. They guide how the audience feels at every moment. And remember, when directing a scene, it needs time to breathe. Those long pauses can be enhanced with a well-timed tune. Get physical. Physicality with cartoonish movements can bring a playful energy, especially with a younger audience. The magic of the mid-shot. It's the sweet spot for clarity and comic timing. You can see them in action and read their reactions. Sometimes the funniest moments is not what you see, but what you don't see. So create the setup and let the audience fill in the blanks. And most importantly, let your performer perform. Arrive on set or rehearsals with a clear plan, loads of ideas, but give your artist the time, space, and environment to bring their own talents and ideas. Make it a creative process. Sometimes your actor will suggest an idea that's unbelievably better than yours. Either incorporate it or rip up your own ideas to make space for it. Whatever gets you the biggest laugh. Questions?
So I think there's a mic or two to share between these. Is there a mic for the audience? If anyone wants to ask anything, put your hand up. There's someone over here, please, down the end. Just say who you are before you ask your question.
Thank you guys for doing what you do. I'm Matt, I'm a composer, so you can already guess what my narky, annoying question's going to be. I appreciate Jeff was talking about music towards the end. But for me, none of the clips you showed were silent, and for all my colleagues in music and sound, I feel like those things were doing a huge amount of the heavy lifting and the storytelling, not necessarily just reinforcing what's on screen, but also subverting expectations and, and telling the jokes themselves. So I'm interested to know kind of how much music is in your head when you're writing for silent animation, and when those jokes that come in the script and those jokes that come in the animatic, how much is that in your head at the time?
Yeah, so when we're writing, I think it's always present in our thinking, because it's without dialogue, it's one of the few tools you have, and you have to, I think, be aware always of how much is contributed by sound design and by Foley and by composing the composition. Not that we'll always know exactly what it's going to sound like, but I think in building tone, in building mood, in misdirecting the audience, these things all play a role. And so, yeah, it's hugely important. And yes, it's one of the few tools we have in dialogue-free situations.
Yeah, you're perfectly right, Matt. It shouldn't be silence, or it should be non-verbal comedy, and sound effects and music do a lot of the heavy lifting. So that's correct. I don't when working with writers or directing, I don't have any music in mind specifically, and except for parodies. Like if I know that there is a scene which is a parody of a Western spaghetti, then I know what kind of music we're going to have. If there is a sequence which is reminiscent of a ballet, then we're going to tap into that kind of music. So it's more being like creating parodies. But that's, I think, very scene-specific rather than have the whole soundtrack for the whole show. Yeah.
For the birthday party sketch that we did, that one was very much, we sort of went through all the various beats of what we were going to do, sent it off to a composer who then sent us a rough, basically just did a video on the phone, sent us back a rough to that. And then we shaped in reverse back to that track to make sure everything would fit with the beats. And we go, can we have a few extra bars of this and bars of that? And that's a slightly more unusual way of doing it from my perspective, because that was the live action thing where the music had to fit. But often in a pre-recorded setting, we would then send to the composers and they would bring their brilliance to it, making sure, of course, you left enough gaps for it.
Also, I think we should recognise that although, certainly in the Bad Dinosaurs clips we showed, there's a lot of vocal performance there. It's not dialogue, but there's voice performance going on all the way through that, particularly the performance of the snake in that first one was quite fine, I thought, and whoever did that should be commended.
I'm sorry. No. Yeah, that performance was absolutely thrilling. No, there is something I wanted to add about music. Is even though you have a very specific idea in mind, I would always be open to experiment. There is a specific scene in the show we worked on together, Bad Dinosaur, in which there is a giant ball of shit, like rolling downhill and encapsulating all the dinosaurs in the valley. And the first reaction would be, it should be like a thrilling kind of tense moment, right? And then our editor, Simon Bullen, he came up, he just proposed one day and put some a classical music in it, tum, 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 like a valse, tum, 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 and it worked perfectly for comedy. So we changed our mind after listening to that edit. So I just wanted to add, you can stay quite open when it comes to musical solutions, because you might be surprised how well it works with something you hadn't thought of before.
Thank you. Any other questions anywhere? Looking out into the... one at the back and one here, and then I think we'll have to stop.
Hello, I'm Amit Patel. I'm a DEI consultant. Being blind, this is my nightmare. I've got 2 young kids. I grew up with watching these silent cartoons. I was sighted then, I'm blind now. When you're writing this, do you think about the audio description? Because it's all about the timings. It's all, I hear the sound. I can't watch horror films because they tell me what's happening before it happens, but I can hear it in the music. It ruins it for me. Sitting down with young kids, especially I want to sit down with my kids, watch what they're watching. And if they're watching this, it'll be nice to know what's happening. Do you think about the audio description? Is that in your budget? Do you ever consider that, or do you let it go? Because sometimes the audio description could be fantastic, or it could be non-existent, or it could be okay. With something with a dialogue, you know what's happening, you only need a few words. But where you've got nothing coming out, nothing telling you what's happening, again, timing with the audio description is quite crucial.
Yeah, I think we'd love to be involved in that. We don't, certainly we haven't in the past, but I think because Jeff and Simone both emphasised, and I second the fact that the timing of a joke is so important that a bad piece of description that ruins the surprise at the beginning of it possibly doesn't let you enjoy it in the same way as you could otherwise. So I think I would really push for writers and writers of the show to be involved in creating that audio description so that it can have a similar effect, but that hasn't been my experience so far. I don't know.
I'm not trying to find excuses here, but I think it really depends on the broadcaster or the streamers. If they want the creative to pay particular attention to that, we are going to pay a particular attention to that throughout the process. If they don't mention it, for example, I don't think Netflix ever mentioned that, but it really depends on the channel you're working with. Some are more aware of that, some are a bit less aware. And our time is limited on the show, so if they pressure on us, or if they ask us to pay particular attention to that, we will do that. Otherwise, we just, we have to move on and create more content. It really depends. Yeah.
I completely agree with the timings, but it's if you're going to make something, shouldn't it be accessible to everybody? Not
Absolutely
you're
right,
basically saying that if you've got a project, you're choosing who can watch it or who can experience it. If you're going to put something out there with your names on it, with big broadcasters, budgets, shouldn't it be there for everybody? And that's how it should be industry-wide. I know it's not, but we need people like you pushing it.
You're perfectly right. Yes.
Thank you very much for that. I think that's something we'd all agree with.
And I've got a quick promo to make from CMC to say that Eleanor Stollery, one of our change makers, has just made a video about this very topic. And it goes into quite fine detail on the way audio description can and doesn't sometimes work.
Thank you. How are we off for time? Can we do one more? One more. This lady here.
Hi there. I'm Kate. I'm from the Lego Group. We are obviously a global brand, so a lot of kind of physical humour really appeals to us because you don't have to translate it. But would you, in experience, have you found any physical humour that isn't translatable, like only works in the UK? Have you come across any types of physical gags that are regionally specific?
Oh, that's a good question. There are some things that you think are just not going to work, but I guess it's all about the relatable situations, really, and you can very easily place things in certain culturally narrow windows. But I think if you decided you wanted something to have a global reach, I think you can easily sort of look at those aspects and make sure they appeal, because it's always the silver bullet to make sure you've got something that can sell globally. Any thoughts?
No, I think I don't think we found anything that hasn't, because I think we rightly...
Suggestive fluids.
Yes, suggestive fluids are apparently culturally specific. We did get that note. But I think, apart from that, our reliance on toilet humour has always stood us well. As I said earlier, it is a universal human love of bums. But yes, Simone, have you come across?
We do have, for example, in Bad Dinosaur, we do have several... butts or naked butts appearing, and even though Netflix was really open to that kind of humor, I guess some countries, depending on the broadcaster and the channel, might find that offensive if there is a close-up of a naked butt which has got the same color of human skin. We love that. We try to push it to milk as many butt jokes as possible, but we are also sensitive and aware that some countries might censor that, depending on the channel.
Thank you.
Can I add another thing? We did get notes at one point, not on Bad Dinosaurs, but on a different show. I have had broadcast notes where they've suggested that certain animals are not culturally acceptable in certain territories, and non-standard family units are less acceptable in certain territories. I think by trying to tell universal human stories that are as warm and welcoming and open as possible, we try to get around those limitations somehow.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for coming along. Thank you.